All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got your watch list for September 18th, 2019, and you better remember that day. It is going to be history, and it is going to be one of the most confusing days. We have the Federal Reserve Open Market Committee interest rate decision tomorrow, but something occurred today that threw a wrench in everything. So we're going to talk about that, and a lot of you have asked in the past, hey, let us know when everything's happening with the news. We don't want to pay attention, subscribe, and like the video. I have the play of the month here in this video. I have two of them that we're going to go over. So what we're going to be looking at, some plays I've already made, and one of them I have not made already, and I'm going to be executing them tomorrow. So make sure you are live, because we are live Monday through Friday, 30 minutes before open. We'll be here on this channel, so have the bell so you don't miss it. But there was a lot of other stuff today. We saw crazy stuff happening with oil. It was, phenomenal actually. But what is happening today and what happened today and what's going to happen tomorrow is going to be very interesting. It is going to be happening at 2 p.m. Eastern is when we hear from Jerome Powell. We will be streaming that live, and the press conference will arrive 30 minutes later. Prepare for the market to do stuff, but I want to talk about that. So I'm going to go over the keys for tomorrow. I'm going to go over the plays for tomorrow. I'm going to go over the plays we made today, and then we're going to cover some of the other stuff that we should be looking at as well, and even potential plays coming in for everything and following up into this next week. It's not only really about tomorrow, but what happens from here. You guys know what you do to do. Make sure you like the video, subscribe. We'll see you live, and most importantly, you need to post your watch list below. Let us know what you're watching out for, and let us know what you're playing for the Fed. And please remember, none of this is financial advice or recommendation, anything. This is just what I'm doing. I'm sharing my thoughts with you, so please be careful. Space out your money and balances if you are going to trade. If you don't know what you're doing, paper trade, again, whether you make money or lose money, there's gonna be something to learn. So without further ado, let's get into the plays, or well, the keys for tomorrow. So tomorrow is not as much about what is going to happen versus how it is said and what it means for the next Fed meeting. And now what I'm referring to is if there is going to be a cut or not. And now here is the next dilemma. Maybe you should include this in your watch list below so we could source some more information. Do you think the Fed is going to cut, yes or no? Now this is the biggest dilemma, because prior to everything we've seen so far, literally last week, the probability based on the Fed futures rate was that it was a 92% chance we were going to see a cut and a 7% chance we were not going to see a cut. Yesterday, the beginning of the week, that changed to 64%, but it was at like that's where it closed at. Throughout the day, these probabilities yesterday were changing, and then today now, it even flipped. At one point, the Fed futures were pricing in a no cut higher than an actual cut. And that's right here. No cut is 2 to 2.25. So this is what gets interesting, because now we have no idea what is going to happen. Now, that's why I'm asking, post it below, because some people say they're going to cut, they have to cut this and that. There's no clear-cut path, and this is what we discussed last time. When we played that play, the $100 into 10 grand, looking at TLT, how we were able to foresee that, remember what we said. We said the first time in 40 or the first time in 11, and it was the first time in 11. They choose to cut versus breaking this trend, and the trend is the Fed has always followed the Fed futures rate. Whatever is at 60% or higher, that's what they do. So this is going to be interesting coming into tomorrow, because if it stays at this 50-50 probability, you have half of the market in one direction, half of the market in another direction, and even worse, the Fed has zero clarity on what investors are expecting. So this is what happened today that made everything so interesting. And again, that's why tomorrow, whether it's a cut or not, I don't know what is going to happen, and I don't know what the effect is going to be. But at the end of the day, the market is confused, and we have to see how the loser rotates and what they do. And why do I say the market's confused? Because it is flip-flopping on what is expected and why this happened. That's a great question to understand. Why did these probabilities change? It's because of, one, we're at all-time highs. The trade tensions have dropped considerably with everything Trump has been doing, and we're going to see, and I'm even expecting, again, this is the next part, the main thing that is going to cause the moves, and tomorrow, the big plays aren't going to happen. There will be a reaction. It's going to be a lot of up and down. There will be a lot of volume, but what's going to happen is going to develop over this week and next week as people digest this, and then as we see how people rotate and where they go into. But we have to see, okay, if Powell says that he's going to do this, and I think he's going to very, very much limit how much he talks about trade tensions to not provoke the president to tweet something. But we have to see how, again, and what I mean by the loser here is which side. So if they do get a cut or they don't get a cut, whichever the other 50% wasn't expecting, we have to see how they respond and what they rotate into, and then what that further is going to mean. So this is the key, but again, this is going to have an effect, and the main thing now is whatever he says, the real focus. And we were looking, there's not too many divergences here in the market. Despite this big move up, you would think that a lot of things have diverged, but everything kind of went up with the market. There's no real clear-cut thing pointing out like it did last rate cut. When you see here, this was the last rate cut. Look at this big divergence. The rates and bonds stayed the same, but now they've been going all over the place, if not over, and outpaced the market. We're not seeing that with anything in any other commodity, interest rate, financial tool, asset, or anything. So this is going to be a different effect, and that's why I'm saying even with the rate cuts at 50, or with the rate odds and the Fed futures at 50-50, I really think whatever happens here and gets said, the key in how it's going to affect either bonds or everything else, whether there is an inflow into bonds or outflow, is going to be what happens and what is said and how that affects the next meeting, October, and what is going to happen through there. So as we get the news tomorrow, what happens tomorrow is going to cause a move in the next week, depending on how investors are going to forecast that to affect October and then on. Hopefully that makes sense. So that is the conclusion I've came to with this. And now the play, I got your play of the week and your play of the month. One of them is TLT, but TLT, even though I said I really want to make that the number one play, that is going to be the runner-up. So that's still on the list, and I have two plays, and one of them I haven't made yet. But this was a play that I made today in a pseudo form, and I'm going to grab another one. And this was a play we made last Fed meeting. It worked out really well, but I did sell it off early, and we could have made a lot more. So the key with this one is the hard part is going to be pinning the timing. But my friends, your play of the month or your play of the week, Bank of America, BAC, both sides, either October 4th through October 18th. I sold October 11th calls. I have some September 20 calls. Remember, we sold those call spreads, so that is like me buying the puts. And then today I bought October 4th calls just to hedge that in case. But then I looked at some other stuff. Pretty much if you look at October 4th to 18th, there's these plays that are around 10 cents. I'm going to come up here and show you them once we get here to the platform. But I want to make sure you guys are following along with me. This play is essentially a 1 in 10 chance, and that's why it has the potential to yield a lot. But I like it the most because the banks, they've moved the most, and you could see, we'll pull up XLF on the daily so you could see it here, and then Bank of America in general. It's pretty much the same thing, but these have had the biggest moves up and down and have oscillated, I'd say, the most. They're past their October points. It's kind of like playing the S&P, but they have more of a direct correlation on bond rates and everything else that's going to happen here. So that being said, now as far as the exact plays that I'm going to be looking at, the ones I grabbed today, I grabbed the October 1st 31 calls for 21 cents each. I grabbed 3 of those for $60 because those 2 call spreads I sold credit spreads on the calls, which is bearish. Those have it was a $20 max collateral to make $100, I believe. So I bought $60 to hedge it both ways. But now October 18th are probably the ones I'm going to go after. And what I'm looking for is the 33s. If you want to be a real sicko, you could go to the 34s. They're a lot cheaper. 33s on the calls and then 26s on the puts. Those, again, 10% on the calls, 4% on the puts as far as probability. However, if you do go to October 4th, and you could be, again, a real sicko on here, you could get for those same 10 cents, or you could spend a little less and get more contracts. You could get the 32s for 6 cents each and then get the 27 puts. And again, these have lower IV, considering there's less time on them. However, being, these are still further from the money, so they actually have slightly less probabilities, but they actually end up being roughly the same. So I like these, and these are what I'm going to be sprinkling on. What I'm pretty much really going to do by keeping it at like 60 cents, I might grab 10 of these. And again, I'm probably going to go for October 18th. We'll see. But even if I did the 33s, maybe I'll get 10 of these for 100, or I'd probably get 5 of these for 50, and then another 5 of these for 55, spend $100 both ways, and let her rip and see what she does from there. So again, considering I'm thinking the banks can either break out or really drop and then sell off depending on what happens, we're not getting these as spreads, and I'm just spending money both ways. And that's the first one, and that's the first play of the week, play of the month. And our runner-up here is those TLTs we mentioned yesterday. Those already went up about 20% yesterday. They're around 18, 19 cents. We bought them for 14 cents yesterday. The November 15th 158 calls, or you could be a real sicko and go for October 18th on the TLTs, and I do like those. And again, I want to see if there is any big moves here to give us that opportunity. If you spend the same 14 cents, you could get 153s, but my goal is to try to get cheap to get a lot of contracts. But then I start noticing anything below there, you have to watch out. And really what I'm going to encourage you to try to get, if anything, I think it starts around here. Look at the last trade, but try to spread in 6-7 cents, but anything below 158. That's the whole idea. Again, that's on October 18th. If you want to be a real sicko, you can look for October 4th, but the key is how close to the money are you going to get for that price? So maybe even these 148s on October 4th, that could be good, but you have to understand, depending on what happens, we need a certain reaction to cause the bond rates to really move, and to really move how they did last time. And even though there's been a huge theta crush, the bonds are still pricing in a little bit of what happened last time. So understand, it's going to be harder for that to occur. But those are the plays for tomorrow. As far as SLV, that is still a close contender, but I know that one's going to come up here on a watch list a few days later. And as we've said, it's not about really what happens tomorrow as it is what happens moving on and moving forward from there. So good luck, be smart, and let me know what you guys think. If you have any agreements or disagreements, let's prove these plays wrong. That's what we talked about last time. I'm not as confident in these as I am TLT. Last time I was pretty confident in it. We didn't go too big on them, but it still ended up working. But I really couldn't see how we could lose on that play. This one, I still think the market's there. And even my secondary thesis, I am starting to see if there is anything that surprises to the positive side, and those people who are very bearish flip, I think the market could even go up. So really what I'm even looking for today, I did make other plays. I grabbed a 1950, 1955 Amazon debit spread for October 4th, and I got it for $19. That's to hedge the upside. We got those Bank of America calls, and I might grab another Amazon call to hedge, or even some of the other plays we saw there. But I do also want to get some exposure to the upside here, just in case there is anything that really does send us up. But again, it is all going to be how we rotate. With the 50-50 thing and this lack of clarity, tomorrow is going to be crazy. So that being said, now watch these plays. These are the ones, again, Bank of America, TLT, SLV is going to be the close one. I like Amazon for the bounce play, and then also another one I might grab a call on, or even then now, depending on the news, if tomorrow comes out and it ends up being bigger than we expect and a big move starts to happen, McDonald's will be a good one to flip intraday because it's right at 210. So 210, tomorrow's going to be a Wednesday. The contracts are going to get hit by theta. If it goes up, that could be good, or it's right there at that 207.50 on the bottom side, and those are going to be very, very cheap, especially after what happened today. So watch those. Next, watch Facebook. They had news that the investigation from last month was confirmed about some sort of probe, but the stock went up. And then even though we had a end of the day melt up today, Facebook really took it and ran, and it really blew past there. So watch out for that. Google didn't do the same. So keep an eye on that and how that moves. Maybe even the upside we will see, but I'm more interested in Amazon because where it's at. But then now Boeing, watch how this plays out. But they broke at 384, 385 today. If they could break past 386, and if it breaks 386 strong, it's pretty much a road straight to 390. If it fails from there, we'll see what happens. But again, I'm even looking to still sell some premium and credit on that. And that's what I think I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm going to be looking to spend maybe $100, $150 on plays prior to the report. And then I want to do some premium sells to hopefully balance it all out. But keep your eyes on those. Then now we also are going to have Adobe. They reported after hours. They were kind of all over the place. They had a pop lock drop in, pop again, drop out, and it was something. It was crazy. But they shot up. They're coming down. Watch as they do. They could be a continuation play, but even better is FedEx. FedEx dropped about 10% here after their report. They missed on EPS, and I think they're usually a great continuation play. We said it yesterday. The options weren't pricing in a big move. It moved beyond that, so a lot of 50, 30, 40, 50 cent options, those are going to be in the money and expensive. So watch for a continuation, even a bounce. I may even look to sell a spread on this in the morning. But watch them. And then lastly today too, this one's going to be a good one. I mean, we'll see how this usually responds after the Fed. You could throw Roku in here, but I closed out of that Roku today, that credit spread we had. But watch Shopify. They issued more shares today. They had a secondary offering, and that's what brought it down. And they really dropped. Then they moved a lot. Big moves intraday, but nothing that really stuck. But watch out to see if they continue down or not. But depending on what happens tomorrow, if it brings gas or more pressure to them, they could be a good one with a lot of dollar moves into them. So there's that. And then lastly, for this chart and everything else to watch, XLF. It could be the ETF version. It could be a little bit cheaper, but it's pretty much going to move just like Bank of America. It's kind of like the little brother to a degree, but I think Bank of America will probably be better individually, but you never know. And there is also, too, even though I'm bringing up Bank of America, the same thing applies with all these plays. You could look at Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, even any of these companies, but they could do the same thing. But Goldman Sachs and JP, I am going to look at in the morning too, just because those have bigger prices. The contracts will be a little bit more expensive, but if they make bigger dollar moves and you get in the money, those could be a lot more profitable. But watch that. Then lastly, I want to watch, the last two, Intel and then then Booking. But as far as Intel goes, if there is a surprise and we do end up seeing a big move cause, I want to find Intel. And if you guys know anyone, another one could be like Hershey's or Coca-Cola or even Nike, even Starbucks, but specifically Intel because it has that tech sector. But I want to find companies that low volatility, I'm talking 10% or less, because if there is a move after the event and then it ends up surprising, there's going to be cheap plays, then these are going to be the ones we could flip. McDonald's is one of those too, but it's going to be a little bit more volatile and risky, whereas these could really pick up, and if the broader market makes a decision, you might be able to find some cheap options. And then lastly, Booking, and this is kind of what gives me some of my bounce case too. They kind of led the last drop. They really sold off prior, but watch Booking. It's a high price stock. Whether we're doing credit spreads or even if you buy a contract and you catch one of these moves, it could move a big dollar amount, and that could have a big effect. So I'm going to be watching those, and depending on what happens there, that may be a play, but I'm going to keep my eyes out for everything. I'm going to be hungry, but we got to understand, man, this is war. You got to snipe, control the balances, and be ready. But that is your watch list, ladies and gentlemen. To give you a motivating speech and pep talk, but all I got to say is come there in the morning, be ready, be respectful, and let's come together so we can help each other out. Tomorrow is going to be no nonsense. I need some focus. Watch the plays. Don't bring any of that negativity, FOMO, whatever. Just keep it to yourself. I need you smart. It doesn't matter if there's a problem that occurs. Who cares? Focus on the solution. Focus on where you're going. Look, I still ended up giving you a pep talk. So let's go, baby. Stay healthy. Stay ready to go. Stay hydrated. Post your watch list, and let's go.